Let's explain some of these. Keep in mind, these exact questions will come out on the quiz Friday. So let's say we're doing number 3, which we are. Let me call on some people at random here. How about Maria? What would be the first thing you do on number 3? Get rid of the. You could get rid of the fraction, or you could also get rid of the -5. It's totally up to you, right? So if you wanted to get rid of the -5, you'd have to add 5 to both sides, and that would make the whole inequality smaller and nicer. But Maria says to multiply everything by 5, so I'm just going to do what she said. Multiply by 5, multiply by 5, multiply by 5. It would have been better to get rid of the -5 by going +5 to both sides, but you could do it this way as well. So 5 times 5, and let's actually, Vanessa, tell me what would I write next after multiplying everything by 5? What would be my new inequality? So that's what we get after multiplying everything by 5. Now we want to get t by itself. So what would we do next, Robert? What would we do next? Add 25 to both sides. Sounds good to me. So plus 25, that'll be 0 right there. And what you do to one side, you do to the other side. Add 25 over here. So my new inequality will be, yep, the negative t comes down, and on the right side you have -20. So for my final step, Oscar, what do I do? Final step. To get that t by itself, I need that t to be positive. What do I do? So you multiply by -1 or divide by -1. So like, let's say you pretended that there's a -1 in front of the t. Well, then you would divide by -1, divide by -1. That way it'll cancel out, and you'll have a positive t. You have a positive 20, but because you divided by a negative on your last step, you have to flip that inequality symbol. There's your answer. T is less than or equal to 20. Now keep in mind, on the answers in the back, they have it in notation with these weird looking brackets. Set notation is what it's called. Whatever variable you're dealing with, in this case t, that's what you're going to see right there. And then there's going to be like a little wall. And then you're going to have your answer, t is less than or equal to 20. So you guys informed me that on the answer side of your worksheet, the whole question was written differently. It had a 6 right here. So let me go back and redo this problem, but with the 6 right there, so we could see the different answer. Because on midterms and finals that select questions from this program, it might pick the question that has a 6 instead of a 5. So here's my inequality rewritten with a 6 in the denominator instead of a 5. Okay, so if I wanted to solve this thing, I could multiply everything by 6. We did that on the first problem with the 5 down there. We multiplied everything by 5 to get rid of the fraction. But let's try the easier route. Let's get rid of that -5 by doing the opposite of -5, which is +5. It'll cancel out, +5. And we'll have a new inequality that says -t over 6 is greater than or equal to -4. Okay, so for my final step, I want to get rid of that fraction by multiplying either by -6 to get rid of both the negative and the 6, or just by 6 and then getting rid of the negative later. I want to just multiply by 6 so nobody gets confused. The 6's will cancel. What do I have left? I have a -t left over. I have a greater than or equal to sign that comes down because I didn't multiply by -6. I could have. If I would have multiplied by -6, I'd have to flip the inequality symbol. But right now I have a -24 left over. Now for my final step, I pretend that there's a -1 in front of the t. So I divide by -1. I divide by -1. And now I know that my t is by itself, and the inequality flips. It changes because I actually divided by a negative. So 24 is my final answer right there. As in, t is less than or equal to 24. Set notation. There it is, set notation. It looks ugly, but it's the same thing. T is less than or equal to 24. It's right there. T is less than or equal to 24. Now, if this would have been an x, then you put an x right here with a line. That's the only difference on set notation with these funky looking brackets. Let's move on. You want to solve this thing, there's u's on both sides, right? You don't want u's on both sides. Brandon. So if you want to get rid of the 6, you want to get rid of the 6. So it's a positive 6u. Oh wait, did you say add 6? Yeah. Okay, add 6. Okay, so you're right, my bad. So you could get rid of the 6 by adding 6. I thought you were talking about the u's, that's why. So yeah, you ultimately want to get your numbers to the right side and your letters to the left side. So let's get rid of this minus 6 by adding 6. That'll cancel it out. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. Add 6 over here. Your new inequality will be 4u is greater than or equal to 6u minus 14. You owe 20, you have 6, you're still going to owe 14. So for my next step, since I moved the numbers to the right, let's move the letters to the left. Chris, help me out, Chris. What do I do to get rid of that 6u? Subtract 6u, right? So you're going to subtract 6u. That way it cancels out. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. And negative 2u, that's what we have left. Greater than or equal to? Negative 14. Perfect. Thank you, Glenda. So for my final step, I need to do what, Aranza? Divide by negative 2. And we do to one side, do to the other side. Now, we divided by a negative. What do I need to do, Kayla, if I divided by a negative? Flip the inequality. Thank you. Change the inequality. So my final answer is u is less than or equal to, that is going to be a positive 7. So u is less than or equal to positive 7. These actual questions, 5 and 6, came out on yesterday's handout on the notes. If you look for them there, you'll be able to find the explanation of those. And they're obviously on video, so you could actually go back and watch the explanation of questions 5 and 6 on the other video. So let's jump to number 9. You want to solve this guy. Just like any equation, you need to try to simplify it first. What does simplify mean? Berenice? Sorry. So we need to simplify, which means do distributive property and combine like terms on anything possible and do one side at a time. So let's ignore the right side for a little bit and let's just do distributive property and combining like terms on the left side. So what do I need to distribute, Andrea? The 3 into the parentheses. So 3 times z is 3z, and 3 times 1 is 3. And we're going to also bring down the plus 11. So I've distributed. Now the only thing to do left is to combine like terms. So Marco, what do we combine? The 3 and the 11. Okay, so let's bring it down. 3z plus 14. When you combine 3 plus 11, that's 14. So we've simplified the left side. Let me now cover that up and simplify the right side. So on the right side, I'm going to distribute negative 2 times z is negative 2z. And then negative 2 times 13, that's negative 26. And that's all I could do on the left side. So now I have, whoa, don't tell me it got attached to that. It did. Sorry about that. Now we have 3z plus 14 is less than negative 2z minus 26. We want to get z by itself on one side. I want to get rid of the minus 2z by going plus 2z. What I do to one side, I do to the other side, plus 2z. And Janisa, what would I get to rewrite everything right now? What do I have so far, rewriting everything? Okay, that was 5z plus 14. What else? Less than, what's left on the right side? There you go, negative 26. Okay, so we almost have z by itself. We need to get rid of that 14 and the 5. So I want to get rid of the 14 by doing the opposite, minus 14. Minus 14. What I have left is 5z is less than negative 40. If you owe $26 and you owe $14, you're going to owe $40 altogether. So for my final step, I need to divide by 5 and divide by 5 Do I flip the inequality symbol or do I leave it? Leave it. So I have z, leave it, -8. Because we did not divide by a negative. That's why you don't flip it. Let's jump to number 11. So on number 11, we're going to distribute. We have a -3 times n, that's -3n. -3 times -6, that's +18. And let's bring down the rest. There's a 5n out there in front. And bring down the inequality and bring down the 0. There's our new inequality with distributive property already done. After distributive property, we need to check for combining like terms. So out of those 3 terms on the left side, what could I combine, Ismail? What do I get when I combine the 5n take away? Huh? +2n. When I combine the 5n take away 3n, you do that in your head, right? 5 take away 3 is 2. Yeah. So let's bring down the rest. We have a +18 greater than or equal to 0. We're almost done. We need to get the n by itself. So Rosalba, what do we do next? Thank you very much. We're going to subtract 18 here. What I do to one side, I do to the other side. 18 take away 18 is 0. So I have 2n greater than or equal to -18. Of course, I'm not flipping it because the only time you flip it is when you multiply or divide by a negative. Now, what is my final step, Angel?
Isolate n.
So what do I do?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2? Sorry, that's ugly. Divide by 2. Angel, do I flip this inequality symbol or keep it? Keep it. And what's my final answer? N is greater than or equal to? -9. Perfect. So to make this homework a little shorter, let's not do 14 or 15. We could try to do 13 and 12. Those are fun. So keep in mind, guys, whatever I explain on video usually come out on quizzes and tests.